Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 2 of Build Your Stash and Craft. And so today I just wanted to show you a couple of things that to save. My paper towels ran out and I was like, oh yeah, save paper towel rolls. They come in handy for a lot of things and they make some really pretty crafts also. So don't forget to save those when you run out, or toilet paper rolls. And then any kind of little tins, glass jars, when things get empty, those are great things to also keep and set aside. So today we are going to make paper beads and we are going to also make a bead holder. And so that's what the little box is here for. Any little box, this one is, and it doesn't need to be any certain size, but this one is 9.5 by 6 by about 5.5. So what you want is you do want one that's probably at least 5.5 inches tall, like this. And then you just want it to not be any longer than one of your skewers. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take off one side of the box. Take it off. And then you can just fold the flaps down or you can cut those off also. And I'm thinking that I'm going to cut them off because they, you know, they just kind of want to pop up and stuff. I could glue them down. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll glue them down. No, I'm going to take the top ones off. I am going to glue down the bottom flaps to keep this whole thing more sturdy because that will, you know, hold it so that it's not moving around. And so I'm just going to put some glue under there. And you don't need a ton of glue. You just need it to be glued down. So I'm going to set that aside. And then I am going to cut off those top flaps. If I can see what I did with my scissors. Found them. Okay, they were buried. Scissors from last week. And so I'm just going to, every so often, just push that down until that glue dries. Then I'm going to just cut these flaps off. And that'll just make it a little bit easier to deal with instead of having to constantly mess with the flaps, or even the fact of if you fold them in, you could fold them out, I guess. If you fold them in, then they're kind of taking up space inside your box. There we go. So now basically we have a 3-sided box with a bottom. No top, no front. And it just needs to be a little bit tall so that you can hang your beads in there for them to dry. And it needs to be no wider than your no wider than your skewer. And then all you're going to do is take one of your skewers and just poke a hole in the side, which I've actually already had to use my box, so it's already, the holes are already there. But just poke it in one side and poke it out the other. This is not perfectly even. I could have measured, but I didn't, so it's a little closer here than it is here. That does not make any kind of a difference. You want to let it stick out a little bit so that it doesn't come out. And then normally what I do is, and I'm going to use the pliers that we bought, because they've got a little wire cutter here. I'm just going to cut that skewer off just so that point's not sticking out there. And you can normally cut these with your scissors also, but the less hard things you cut with your scissors, the longer they last. So I'm just going to put that aside. And so now this is what it looks like. And then we got the paper clip. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper clip, excuse me, and open it up. like this. And then it doesn't matter whether it's the long end or the short end. You're going to take one end and you're just going to open it up a little bit like that. That is where you're going to hang your bead when it's drying. This loop is going to hang over top of your skewer, just like that. And then you'll just put your beads on here and they'll be able to dry without touching anything. And so I have a bunch of them here, like I said. And on this one, the big part is left and I bent out the small part. So it doesn't matter which way you go, unless you're going to have really big, really long beads. Then you might want to bend out the small part just so there's a little more support there for your bead. So I'm gonna put these back in here just so that I've got them on here. And then what you can also do is you can do another row, put in another skewer, and then you'll have room for even more beads because you don't want them to touch each other when you're hanging them up there. And usually what I do is I just throw them all to one end. And then when I'm doing my beads, I take one and then I hang it here and then just leave spacing between them. So let's just grab another skewer. So we have our skewers from the Dollar Tree. And these come in handy for lots of different things also. So I'm just going to take this. And you want to leave room because when these are hanging here, your bead's going to be hanging out here. So you want to leave room so that your beads are not touching the beads in front of it. Those beads, the back hangs straight down, the front sticks out. So long as, here's the end of our paper clip, so long as we are forward of the end of the paper clip, they won't touch each other, unless you shake it around quite a bit or something. But you do just want to leave some space. And also leaving space between the front one and the back one also makes it so that if you're doing a lot of them, you do the back first and you can just set it down in there. But if you fill the front up first, it doesn't matter because you've got all of this space where you can just take it, put your bead on your paper clip, and you can just set it down in there. And, and then that works just perfectly. So I'm going to cut the end off of this one and our bead box is done. Oh, the other thing is that, if you're painting a bead or you're doing something that may drip, that's another good reason you've got this nice bottom on here to catch any drip so it's not dripping, somewhere on your table or something. So you want to make sure that you do keep this skewer back far enough so that when you hang your... if I can get it off of there, when you hang your paper clip on here, your bead is going to be hanging over top of the box. So don't put this front skewer right in the front, and don't put this back skewer too close to the back because you just want to have a little room for air to get around there and for those beads to just hang and dangle. So that's our bead box. That is our bead drying box, I guess I should say. And then the other thing that I do is when I roll a bead, I'm going to take a handful of these out and see if we can find what we're looking for. These skewers are not all exactly the same. And so what I do is I just kind of try and look at them. Now, they are very close to exactly the same, but not quite. So what I try and do is I try and find one of the biggest ones, maybe this one, and that's the one I use to roll my bead. And then I take a few of them, the skinniest ones that I can find. Let's go with those three right there. And this is corrugated cardboard, so there's kind of those little like waves in there. And I just put these skewers in there like that. And you can do as many as you want. You can do these fairly close together. I already had some pushed in there. You can put one here and here and here and here. So they don't have to be spaced far apart. And this is, once your beads are all dry, you can just take them off the paper clips and just line them up on these skewers just to store them. It gives you a place, and that's really nice to be able to see them that way. And I'm going to show you Well, I don't want to set that too far aside because we're going to need it. So I'm just going to put it back there. So here are 3. These are some beads that I did with 1 page out of my magazine. I don't know how well you can see that, but these ones have nothing on them. They've just been, the beads have been made, and they're, kind of space them apart there. They're all different sizes. So we have these beads here that I like to clear coat them when I'm done with them. You don't have to, but, and then these beads all have, and now see these, this skewer is just a little bit big, so these beads are kind of tight. But we have these that have 1 coat of fingernail polish on it, and then we have these beads that have 2 coats. So, and I don't know if you can see the difference, but there is actually a bit of a difference. There's more shine. These are more glassy looking than these, and the more coats of fingernail polish you put on them, the glassier they look. And also they get pretty strong once you put that on there also, although they're pretty strong just all on their own. So I'm going to just actually stick these in here also, and I've got them separated so that I know these ones have 2 coats and this one only has 1. I'm going to move them up a little bit. And then these ones don't have any at all fingernail polish yet. So, and you don't have to clear coat them all when you make them either. You can do it as you use them. But see, that's how you can store them then. You can just take them and you just take a bead when you're done with it and just put it on the top of your skewer, just like that. And then you can store them that way, dry them here. Alrighty, so paper beads are easy to make, and everybody may already know how to make them, but this is the thicker one that I found, so I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use the straight end, not the pointed end, because you don't want to get your paper up here where it's tapering down, because then your bead could taper down, and that will make a difference. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that point off just so that I don't have to deal with it, and also it won't poke me. And I'll know that this is my beading one because it doesn't have a point on it. So all you're going to do is you're just going to take a page out of your magazine and or any kind of paper that you have. Now this one, I went ahead and I did a straight line for a straight bead. And so I'm just going to cut on that line. Now a lot of times it's better to draw your line on the back of your paper so that it doesn't show up on the front of your bead. And then this is a straight line here. So now I'm going to cut an angle on it. So this bead here is going to have a flat bottom and an flat on this side, or straight on this side and angled on this side. And that makes an even different shaped bead than the ones that I just showed you that were already rolled. And then this one is now angled on this side, and I'm going to angle it this way. And this is the type of bead that I just showed you. Now, I did draw lines for this, and I'm cutting on those lines. But all the other ones that I just showed you, I just took my paper. Now I've got an angle going this way, so now I'm going to do an angle going the other way. So all the ones that I did just show you, I just cut like this. I did not draw a line before I did them. Now, this bead is going to be this wide when you're done, however wide your base is. So, and so that your triangle beads work that way. Then your straight beads, I want to show you this one first, because what color is this bead going to be? We'll see. Because you may be surprised. You may already know. And all you're going to do is just hold your paper on there. Just kind of try and make sure that it's starting to roll straight. And then just roll it. Now you can, at this point, right at the very beginning, put just a little touch of glue right here to kind of hold it. You can put glue throughout if you want to, like as you're going, put a dot here or there. You don't really need to, and I normally don't, because then if I want to adjust it, and if I roll it up and it's a little bit messy, if it's not glued together, you can kind of push on these straight ones especially. You can push both ends like that and straighten it right up. So now we've got this bead, and it's going to be a straight bead instead of a tapered bead. And it's pink. Straighten that up a little bit. But what's going to happen is the only part of your bead, the only part of your color that shows is what's towards the end of the paper. So this bead's going to be half pink and half white, because the end of the paper was white. If that white had been a little bit longer, this whole bead would have been white. So you have to remember, when you're, especially if you're making a straight bead, the only color that matters is what's right there. So if you've got plain paper and you want to color it because you want your bead to be colored, all you have to do is just color that much of it on a straight bead, and your whole bead will be that color. And so then I just wrap it around, and I go ahead, the glue kind of squishes out, so I just, and especially on the tapered beads, just kind of keep going around and smoothing that, the glue all over the whole tapered bead. Now, like I said, because I didn't glue it all the way along, so it's not glued together yet, I can push both ends, and now it really is really straight, or like a barrel bead, or whatever you want to call that. So I just need to make sure that this end has caught, that my glue's dried enough to catch it, and then I am just going to hang it on one of our paper clips and let that glue dry, because I did smear that glue all the way around the whole bead. So now, which one of these has the straight edge on it? Let's see. Trying to figure out how this was cut. This one is the straight edge right here. So that's the so that's a straight edge, and this is a tapered edge, I think. Is that correct? Or was it this way? So I should have marked it, but it really doesn't matter. But I do believe that that is the straight edge right there. All right, so I'm just going to show you the difference. If you have a straight edge, it's easier to do this, but you can do this with a tapered edge too, and I don't know why I just did that. That was not a good idea. Yeah, we're just going to put that one down, and we're going to pretend this is a straight edge right here. So what I'm going to do is, if you have a straight edge on one side and an angle on the other, you can roll that so that you line up that straight edge. And what you have is you have a flat side on one side and a tapered top. So you just want to keep rolling that straight side. And again, like I said, even if you're tapered on both sides, you can do this. It's just easier to do with a flat side. So you're just going to keep that all lined up right there. And then when you get towards the end, you're just going to put your glue, and I usually do a couple inches or an inch. Just put the glue all the way out like that. And then again, you're going to roll it. It's going to squish out a little bit on your finger. And then you're just going to take that that's on your finger and just go right up that bead, just to cover the whole bead with the glue. And that just helps seal the whole thing, since we didn't glue it all the way along. Then that just kind of glues that a little bit and makes it a little stronger. And then when you cover it with your clear nail polish, that makes it even stronger at that point. So now we have this shaped bead where it's flat on the bottom and tapered all the way up to the point. All right. Alrighty. And then just showing you, if you're using, the wider your paper is, the larger your bead is going to be. And so when you're doing the tapered bead, the kind that you're starting with the triangle, what you kind of want to do is just make sure that you keep this in the middle. So you just kind of watch as you go and just kind of make sure that you're about the same on each side. You can adjust these a bit. They're not as easily adjustable as the barrel beads, because the barrel beads, you just got to push both ends and boom, it's adjusted. So with this one, it's easier to kind of keep it adjusted. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Try and keep it adjusted as you go. It's easier than trying to adjust it at the end. And they don't have to be perfect. Your point does not have to wind up exactly in the middle. And, you know, you just... Okay, now, you know, I've done this, and that's kind of pretty, but it's got the black, then it's got the white, and I really don't like that, but there was a point right here. At this point, I really loved the looks of this bead. I really love that light blue there in the middle. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut the rest of that off. I don't want that really darkness there. Unroll it just a touch so I can put... So I got space to put some glue. And I'm just going to roll that around there. Again, taking the glue that's on my finger and spreading it out from one side to the other. Again, I got it a little sticky right there. But there. Now, I like that a lot better. And I don't like that white that's really showing on the end, so I'm going to nip it off. And there we go. I really like the looks of that bead. I think that's quite pretty. Right? So then I'm just going to let that one dry. And, you know, you could set them on parchment or something also, because this is just a little bit of glue. It's not that much. But you don't want to throw them like in a bowl or something until they're dry, because otherwise that little bit of glue will stick to itself. Now, I have this really long piece of paper. We didn't buy a ruler yet, and I needed to draw a line. So all you do is just use your magazine. The magazine you took the paper out of is going to be as long as your paper. So just set your magazine up there. That's a nice straight edge. And then just use a pen or a pencil and draw your line. Just like that. And then... you're just going to cut them out. But if you, let's see, where's our barrel bead? Especially on barrel beads, you will wind up with the edge of your paper is white. And so you're going to wind up with white sides on your barrel bead if you don't do something about that before you roll it. Now, you can try and color it like this, and that works okay, but it does not. It's really hard to get into all of those ridges. So you still wind up with some white and some color. So what you do is before you roll it, you're going to color the edges of the paper. And that's not as hard as it sounds. And I forgot to bring out our markers that we had bought for this. So do I have a marker on my table? Here. Okay, I'm going to use this marker. We did not buy this for the series, but I am going to use it just to show you this is what we can do with the markers that we have. And all you're going to do is you're just going to take any marker and you're just going to run it along the edge of your paper. You're running it along the edge a little bit, not on the top. And what I'm going to do too is to show you, oh, this is not a barrel bead, but I need to do a barrel bead to show you what we're doing here. All right, I'm going to set that one aside for a second. And like I said, what we're going to do here, you can do with any, you can do it with any bead. I need this to be pretty straight. Hopefully we can do that. Okay, hopefully that's a straight line. Okay, so this is more for when you are doing your barrel beads, that you need to color your edges so that the end of your bead is not white. On the tapered beads, because they taper constantly, you don't really see that white edge too much, but you can do this kind of just as a finishing touch if you want to, but you don't have to really with the tapered beads. And you can, if you don't mind the end of your beads being white, you don't have to do this with your barrel beads either. But if you don't want the ends to be white, so we've got the one that we can see what it looks like when it's white, you're going to take a marker and you are going to just kind of put it on the edge of your paper, run it up to the edge of your paper, and then just run it down the edge of the paper. Just like that. And then do the other side, so that both ends of your barrel bead will be colored instead of white. And like I said, this is what we would do with the markers that we have. All right, and then what you're going to do, if you want the inside of that bead to be colored also, then you're just going to color your paper, whatever paper it is, with the color that you put on the edges. Unless you want the color inside the bead to be a different color also. Then you can, if you want the inside of the bead to be blue, you could color this little bit, and you only need as much as this going to roll around the skewer. You don't need a whole bunch. You need to color this whole thing. That's just a waste of color. And then if you want the end of your, let's say whatever color you want your bead to be, you're going to color the other end on the opposite side, because the whole of your bead is on the inside, and the color you're going to see is on the outside. That's why you have one side and the other. You color one side and the other, and just about an inch or so, maybe a couple inches on the outside, because it just has to roll around all of the paper you rolled up. So there we go. Alrighty, so this is going to be our outside, this is going to be our inside, and we're just going to take our skewer, and we're going to start where we've got the color, so that so this is the whole of the bead. So that's going to be brown. And then we're just going to roll it up. And I stuck it to that glued piece. Try and keep it pretty straight. You don't have to keep it straight. Like I said, you can line it up at the end, but you don't want to just like let it get super far off, because otherwise it is harder to straighten it up a little bit at the end. So you want to kind of keep it, you can roll it for a little bit and then just go in and push each end like that. And we're almost to the end. I'm gonna try and line that up a little bit. And we're going to put our glue on here. Now, where's our color? It's on the other side. That was on the outside. So I'm just going to finish rolling this up. See, now we've met the brown. Right there was the white. Now we've met the brown, and there we go. Now the whole outside of our bead is brown. And I'm going to slide that off, line it up a bit. Could even push it on the table a little bit. The straighter this is, the better it would be. But there we go. So we have a brown bead because we colored just that last inch. And instead of being white, the end is brown. Okay, now this one's got a lot of glue on it, so it looks a little whiter, but that's brown too. But that's what it looks like instead of having the white end like that. And so that just kind of gives your bead a finishing touch, and it's an easy thing to do right before you start versus trying to do it after your bead is rolled. So we've made taper beads, and we've made barrel beads, and we've made half tapers, where we've got it flat at the bottom and then tapered up like that. And then once they're dry, and you know, I don't suppose you have to let them dry, but I personally always just let them sit and dry for a while. But I do have these here that I have not, and these are, again, they're just a page out of the magazine also. And you never know what you're going to, with the taper beads, you never know what you're going to wind up with when you're done. When you're using a magazine, which is really quite cool. Now, if you want to do a taper bead and you want it to be different colors, you can color, because you're only seeing the outside, you know, little bits of the paper. You don't have to color the whole thing. You can just take your markers. Just take your markers and color, you know, like, oh, maybe 1/8 of an inch or something on each side. This marker is about to run out. So you can just do it like this, and when you roll it, that center part does not show. Only the edges do until you get right to the point. And when you get to the point, however much is going to be the whole outside edge of your bead, at that point, you do want to color the whole thing. But otherwise, you can just color the edge all the way, a little bit, in all the way down, all the way up, and then this bead would be totally brown just by coloring the edges like this, just the outside edges, and then coloring the whole tip. And then don't forget, if you want the inside to be your color, then color the back side also, about 1 inch. So, but then once you, I don't know where that bead went. Once you get them done and they're all dry, I find the easiest way to put the fingernail polish on them is to put them on the pointy end of a skewer. And if you have one, this is not the pointy end, but I think it might be kind of tight because it's a bigger one. There we go. I like one that kind of holds it tight. That's not holding it either. Let's try another one. No, I don't have one that's going to hold it tight. So I'm just going to, and sometimes too, you can slide it up the skewer to find a tight point. Not on this one. Try one more. No, that's just the way that it is. So, but we're going to put it on here, and then we're just going to take our nail polish that we bought. And you can also just do your beads. You can just roll a bead of anything. And if you have just extra nail polish at home, you can just take any color nail polish and just color the bead that color. But we're just going to, now I'm going to have to hold it. If your skewer is a little larger than your bead, then it will hold it for you, which works really well. But just go ahead and paint the whole thing. And it soaks in just a little bit with the first coat. So if you want it to be extra clear coated and look more glassy, then just go ahead and let it dry. And then put a second coat on, because the second coat looks much glossier. So there we go. And then when I'm done with that, I just take one of my paper clips, and I just, the part that we bent out, I just put it right up in there, slide it off the skewer, and there we go. Now that's going to hang up in our bead box, and it's going to dry. And that's when you really need it, is when you paint them. You know, like I said, with the glue, you could just set it on parchment or something. But if you're going to paint them or clear coat them or anything else, you want to hang them. Because if you set them down on something, then wherever they're sitting, that paint or that nail polish or whatever is going to stick and it's going to come off. So that is our project for today. Handmade beads, a bead hanger to dry, a bead dryer, and then even a way to store them before you use them. So, and obviously, you know, you can use them for absolutely anything. And you can make any size. We made those barrel beads. Here's a little teeny tiny piece of paper that I trimmed off. And let's just really quickly roll this up and see how this looks. Now, these are a little bit fiddly because they're tiny, but they're really not that fiddly. You know, they're really not that much different than a bigger piece of paper. You still have to hold it and roll it and everything else. But these ones, to me, I really do love these little tiny ones. And I think this was pretty much straight, so this is almost going to be a barrel bead, I think. You can do it with a little tiny triangle. But let's just keep it going. And so the thing is that you can, you know, make them any size that you want. And if you do one straight side and one tapered side, then you get that, the half taper bead. And if you do them straight, then you get these barrel beads. So, you know, sometimes I think the ones that are tapered, they remind me of when I was young, when I was a kid. And sometimes it's like, I don't want to do something like that I did when I was a kid. They, you know, they just, to me, they really look like paper beads. But the barrel beads and the half barrel beads, or the half tapered beads, I really, really like those a lot. So I'm going to push that together because it really is a barrel bead. Then let's put it on here. But there we go. Look at how cute that is. Whoops. It's just a nice little teeny tiny bead. And so you can make them any size that you want to. So you could make big ones and then make a bunch of little ones to go between them. You know, the sky is the limit when you do these. And if you have one magazine, one book, one anything, any kind of paper, packing paper, they really, really are easy to make and fun to make, and you can just get hours of really enjoyable creating out of this. And then when you're done, you can use them to make necklaces, dangles on your journals. You can use them, I actually like to put them on sticks like this, which was actually an accident. I'm going to be right back. It'll only take me 1 second. They're just right here in my... So these are just decorative, but these beads were just white copy paper. And what I did was I colored the end brown. Remember how we colored that one? And put a little black stripe at the very end. Then after I did them and they dried and everything, I used a colored marker to put these dots on here. And then these ones I did the same way. Now, I like them like this, and actually they're in a pot, and they stick in my pot like this. The reason that they do is because I clear coated them on here. I left them on here instead of putting them on there to dry, and they won't come off. They're stuck. They're glued right on there. That's why you need to take them off the skewer. But as a piece of just decorative, I love them. You know, I'm actually kind of happy that they turned out that way because I have this little brown teapot and they stick out of there, and I love the way that it looks. So, you know, you can use them for decorative things that are not just jewelry or dangles or something like that. You can put them in different projects, and they come out really cool. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and I was going to show you also kind of, it'll give you a little idea of like how it also works too. So I just have this book that I keep track of everything in, and this is our new Build Your Stash series. So what I do as we're going through this series is I write down everything that we purchased and what our total cost was. And then I put the craft on there too, so I know what it was that we made. And then I have a bank column over here. So because this was our very first week, we started with no dollars extra. This is in the bank, not in our hand to go buy our $7.50 worth of stuff. We started out, we had no money in the bank. We didn't save any because we spent our whole $7.50, so we had still nothing in the bank. Now then, week 2, when I bought the stuff for this week, I wasn't thinking, and I spent $5 because that's what it used to be, was $5. And so, again, everything that we purchased for that week, how much we spent. Now, our bank was at 0, so there we are. We saved, we saved $2.50 because we only spent $5 instead of $7.50. So now we have $2.50 in our bank. Now for next week, and I'm going to show you what we need in just a second. For next week, I spent $8. I went over by 50 cents. I would not have done that if I had not already saved some here. I won't go over $7.50 unless we have the money in our bank, which we've got $2.50 in the bank now. So then we come over here and it shows our bank started out with $2.50. I spent an extra 50 cents because we spent $8. And so now we have $2 in our bank. And then here is the craft that we're going to make for next week. So, and here is my bookmark, because that way I can just find exactly where I'm at in my book. So I like how that, and that bookmark matches that book really nicely. So those are today's project and for next week. Now we have all of these things that we've already collected our first 2 weeks. And for next week, we are going to, now, the thing is, you don't have to buy everything that I buy, and I can only use whatever I buy for this series. So if you have something in your stash, don't go buy it. I can't take it out of my stash because I have to make sure that everything fits into the budget. And then I only use what I purchased for this series so that you'll have it if you're playing along. But we don't have any paper, just regular paper for our series. And at the Dollar Tree, they had no plain paper. Everything was just lined paper, and I just want some plain paper. So if your Dollar Tree has just the little packs, you know, of drawing paper or whatever, those would be just fine, and you could spend $1 or $2, you know, and get a couple of them. I couldn't find that, so I had to go out and I bought a ream of paper. Now this is at Walmart. Elementary printer paper. It's just plain old printer paper, 20 pounds, and it was $4.97. So because I can't use what I have and we really need some paper, we're going to start out. I spent the $5 on this paper, and like I said, if you only spend $2 on paper, then you take the other $3 and you can either purchase something else that you need for your craft room, or you can save it until such a time where we get something that you might have to get somewhere else. Like I get something at a secondhand store and I paid $1 for it. You might have to pay $3 for it. So if you still have $2 saved in your extra stash because you only spent a couple dollars instead of $5, that way you'll have the money to get that too. So that's $5 for that. I did pick up some little blings. You can get any kind that you want. I like these because I have a lot of different colors, but you can do just the clear ones that look like diamonds or whatever. That's $1 from the Dollar Tree. And then we have these little very thin foam sheets, and that's really good that they're thin. And so that's $1. And then these little cake decorating tools, which it has this ball tool with a decent size ball on it and a nice tiny ball on it. It's got these other things too, which could come in handy, but we really want that ball tool. And being that it was $1, it works very well into our budget. So we have $5, $6, $7, $8 we're spending for next week. So we have $2 left in our budget because we had saved $2.50 last week. So this is what we're going to get for next week. And I really hope that you enjoyed this week's project. And I hope that you spend this week making up some beads that you can put into your stash and really enjoy making, because they are very fun to make. And again, you use magazines and it's surprising, you know, what you wind up getting. So thanks again for stopping by. I really do appreciate you. Leave a thumbs up if you can. Leave a comment. I love to hear them. And tell your friends about me. So thanks again for stopping by, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.